Happy holidays! I'm Sanandra, founder of CT Organics. For the past 30 years, our goal has been to bring the healing power of plants into your everyday life with simple, clean, organic skin and hair care made with love. CT makes a wonderful gift for the holidays. Enter code word JOY30 at checkout and you'll receive 30% off any individual CT skin and hair care product.
Happy holidays!
Did you know that discordant energies such as illness, trauma, violence, and depression can linger on a property for hundreds of years, going all the way back to the very beginning of that parcel of land? This can also happen with family heirlooms, antiques, or even previously owned furniture. If you've been feeling blocked in life, more ill than usual, or again just uncomfortable in your home, your space could be holding onto residual energies. Refresh My Property can help clear these energies remotely. Scan the QR code to get your free phone consultation today and begin clearing your space and your life.
This week, a profound plot twist. You and the world are coming out of the closet about what you really believe, and you won't even really believe what happens next. Keep streaming. Hello, friends. Welcome to Namaste Today, Soul Horoscopes, and your Zodiac weather. I'm your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki. I'm the founder of the Serious Joy Network, if you will, now, and app, and also the guardian channeler of the STEP system. And I'm happy to be here today to help you in this particular moment because the Earth is about to go through a profound change. It's all going to happen really in 1 week, but it took the entire year to build up to it. Now, for the course of this week, we're going to be moving from steps 14 to steps 20 Sagittarius. That means that we're going to come to some terms this week about exactly what we're committed to in our daily life, particularly the philosophy and the beliefs we have about daily life. And that's what's interesting about this. This might be the first time you have ever been fully honest with yourself or fully honest with your neighbors or people in your life about what your heart truly believes. It's going to be a truth fest, and not everyone's going to be ready to deal with it. We'll be talking about that in all 12 horoscopes coming up, and we'll also talk about some other things with Tess and Neptune. But first, as just a little reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please leave a comment no matter where you're watching, because a comment is the all holy of algorithms. It'll help us get us to the people that want to see us. But before we dive into that, let's talk about a couple of headlines we have for this week. First of all, we have going on right now, organized religion is going to clash with Satan. What? Well, basically, we're going to have Mars in Sag square Saturn at 25 degrees. This happens on Monday. This square is going to be a radical change between your spiritual beliefs and your earthly beliefs. It could be where some people give up a religion and some people join a cult. All that can happen in that type of square. Then also we have our final lessons maybe going a little too far. Comes Wednesday on December 10th, we have Neptune stationing direct at 29 degrees. The last time that happened, we were almost in a civil war here in the United States. It's a test of morality and it's a major test of faith. I'll be talking about that in your horoscopes too. And lastly, remember that radical full moon we had last week? Well, this week, the divine feminine will comment on it. Venus will square the north node this week, which means that we're going to have to open up to something that we never thought we'd have to open up to. But before we dive into those details and those headlines for each of the 12 signs, let's take a look at the week's moons and your zodiac weather. Serious Joy Academy is now offering gift certificates called Gifted Scholarships in 6-month, 9-month, and 1-year increments. This is the first time we've ever offered this. Serious Joy is the most accurate astrology service in the world. And now you can stun your loved ones with a spiritual mirror that helps them every day. Visit seriousjoy.academy to make your purchase. That's seriousjoy.academy. Available now. And now for our favorite part of the show, Soul Horoscopes. We talk about a horoscope and the story ahead for all 12 sun signs. But first, let's lay down where we are, frankly. We are in a belief structure change. That's what Sagittarius is. It is what you believe about yourself, how that changes into philosophy and belief in day-to-day life, and how that changes to our overall policies going forward and our philosophies that we adopt. It is a big deal. And what it comes down to is your life's purpose. We believe at Serious Joy that this year, most citizens will be making a major life purpose shift, a change, maybe a radical change from where they were, maybe a subtle one that changes everything, but nonetheless, the story does change, and it changes this week. Last week, we had a radical revolutionary full moon in Gemini. It's step 13. That's pretty much of a shakeup anyways. Just number 13 is a shakeup. But they were squaring the nodes that were also at 13 Pisces and 13 Virgo. That tells you that the entire consciousness as we know it is going to go through a dimensional shift, like it or not. And that usually means a lot of radical quick change. This week, I think, is the week where the plot will thicken because we have 3 days where things seem to speed up as far as our storyline. It starts with Tuesday. On Tuesday, it's step 17. That will be the day where you'll need to make a decision about what you believe about daily life, period. It may be about daily life with education or daily life of being married or daily life at work. But whatever it is, it sets a precedent for the rest of your life. And then Wednesday, step 18, things click into gear. That's a Mars ruled day, which means action will happen. But what also happens on that day is in the morning, Neptune stations direct at step 29. Step 29, Pisces. That's the most tested step there is of all spirituality. Any sort of moral test, any sort of test of God or faith in God, that's step 29 Pisces. The last time we had this large of a moral test or a test of our faith in God was right before the Civil War in America. That's right, Lincoln was president at the time. Now we're in that same moment, and we're in the same moment just as the plot will thicken. Later that day, by the way, the Mercury, our mind, will conjunct Black Moon Lilith, which is our source of fear. So our mind faces our fear directly, and it opposes Uranus. That's the planet that brings step 13. So we feel that that is the fault line. Something will shift. There'll be a tug of war between your fears and your thoughts and your potential to innovate. If you're a person who's not going to break through, well, then you're most likely to be a person who breaks down. And then finally, this is where it all shakes loose. It's going to be on Thursday, step 19, ruling the day. This is whether or not you can hold it together to bring yourself to the next level or not. After 19 comes 20, mastery. And once it's in the mastery, it's an emotional issue. And usually our emotions get carried away, whether it's on a good path or a dark one. So for each 12 signs we'll be talking about today, these 3 pieces of information, one in particular where you're wrapping up your story in the Sun and Sagittarius. That's super important because that's changing. Each sign has a different approach to it. Each sign has a different history. We'll talk about it in your individual horoscope. Secondly, Neptune station direct. Where will you see your test happening in your life? Where will be your test of faith? Where will be your test or question of God consciousness in the afterlife? And then lastly, we want to talk about Thursday, because on Thursday, that step 19 day, not only do we have this tested degree to hold things together, but on this day, Venus and Sagittarius squares the north nodes. In other words, what we have there is the divine feminine answers for that full moon we had last week. That'll be interesting. That might be your last chance to get off the wrong boat. We'll talk about what that means for you also. But before we dive in your horoscope, let's bring up something else. Serious Joy has, for the first time ever, launched basically a practice lab, a practice of how to master self-love. It's one thing to talk about the planets. It's another thing to actually put it into your life day by day. So we created a 16-week course that takes us right up to Aries of April next year. And we feel that that's where things will be probably the most challenging. And our goal is to get everyone prepared to practice your self-love. And we do it by using your astrology chart and also instruction and also classroom exercises with other students. I've never seen anything like it. I'm very proud of it so far, and it's going to launch this Sunday. If you'd like to sign up for it, learn more about it, simply come to masteringself.love. That's masteringself.love. Hope to see you there on Sunday. It's a great way to spend Sunday too, about 90 minutes. All right, let's move on to our horoscope, starting, of course, with those Aries. Aries, I find it very fascinating what you are going through this week and also this year. It's a major belief structure change, and I always joke this because of the eons, right, and the eras. In the age of Aries, it was all about war, so you were pretty much employed full time. Then in Pisces, we still needed you for war because it was kind of underhanded and dark and based on morals. But now they're moving to the age of Aquarius. You're out of a job. You're no longer going to be the one that lifts the heavy things and pushes things and has to be the cop or the enforcer. In fact, you are completely reinventing your ego consciousness, which means that you are on the precipice of really designing the new human. So you are, in essence, deciding what you believe the new human should be in this particular week ahead, making a decision about what you believe it brings purpose and meaning to your life, putting that into motion, and as a result, triggering your spiritual test. Unfortunately, your spiritual test will be the highest spiritual test a person can have. Thank goodness you're the strongest of the zodiac. This may be a literal test of does God exist, or does God care about me, or do miracles really happen? You might witness a miracle, you might trigger a miracle, you might make a miracle, you might want a miracle, but this will be the final test of spiritual morals for you in this lifetime. Neptune is finally leaving the 12th house, where its home is, and moving into your sign, which means you're going to have the benefit of spirit right on your shoulder. That makes me believe that most likely this is about you listening to spirit, listening to intuition. When I talk to Aries, I'm really impressed lately, the ones I've spoken to, who are very much in tune with their intuition and in tune with their higher self. So I think you're going to pass that test just beautifully. But remember, all of your karma could be tested again. And if you were sort of tempted by something that you know is wrong, be careful. It will likely come back now that Neptune's direct. Lastly, we have to talk about that Thursday afternoon when step 19 holds the day. You're going to have to hold space. And it might be because there's a lot of criticism, or people not really enjoying your point of view, maybe your family, where you're going and whatnot. And so this life purpose and self-mastery is going to have to do a little bit of tango when it comes to Venus actually trining the North Node. And when this happens, it means that you're going to have to find where your heart believes, maybe over what church has said, and maybe your heart believes over what school has said. This might be one time where Aries, like the cheese and the farmer in the dell, stand alone, completely stand alone. And interestingly enough, it may not be that you stand for force in the future. It may be that you stand for, literature, education, and the finer things. After all, you have Aquarius in the 11th house. You will be the ones that actually go out and build that Aquarius for the world. I think actually this is the week where you decide what team you're on when it comes to the building. We'll see. We'll catch you in your master's degrees next week. Hello, Taurus. Welcome back. Well, Sagittarius for the Taurus bulls comes down to your philosophy about where to draw the line, which is a big deal if you think about it, because line, Scorpio, is your opposite energy, and you approach this with high education, a lot of philosophy, and a lot of meaning and purpose. However, those lines that you've drawn in the past were based probably on your childhood story, whatever karma you had with society and Pisces. And so you're likely making some big changes as to what you let in and what you don't let in, how you protect yourself and how you don't. And you might find yourself in a lot of little mini wars, or have lots of little fires going on right now, which all represent places where you could have had higher resolution, boundary consciousness. I, for one, know this one very true. Nonetheless, this week you will make some sort of a decision that may end up making people unhappy. You might be closing the doors to some of your free generosity. You might be actually deciding to open up to something that people don't want you to open up to. Whatever the case is, you'll be a stubborn Taurus about it, I'm sure. But what happens with Neptune is going to be interesting, because it will be in society. Your reputation in society will go through its final test. This is one you've been working on for a very long time. And this is where Tauruses carry all of their karma. When Neptune goes step 29, anything could happen, including something that seems like it took a miracle for it to go wrong, and then need another miracle for it to go right. Whatever the case is, you being real clear on your boundaries is going to help you get through that particular test. The other issue that's important, of course, is this issue with the North Nodes in Pisces 13, that you are now taking your entire social perspective of who you are up to the next level. And Tauruses quite often are leaders. And even from what I see, I look around, I see some people adopting what I've learned and what I've taught, but I necessarily don't see everyone. So for me to go to the next level when people haven't joined me at this one feels a little weird. Just want to share it with you. It is a weird kind of moment. But the full moon last week did say, hey, if you want to make the money and you want to move forward in your life to the next level, you're going to have to actually innovate to another dimension as far as how you see yourself in the world. So that means that this week, your decisions to draw lines will likely change your daily workplace, your reputation in the world, and also, dare I say, your potential to make money in a good way. Energetically, you have to follow that same principle of what your heart believes. I think this is where it might be a little tough for Taurus. I want to remind you that you have a tendency, because of your karma with society, to go inside with society, to go inside with the groups. And very rarely does the bull stand alone. But this time, it's time to dig in your hooves and be stubborn about what your heart believes, because whatever your heart believes is where you belong. And then next week, we go to mastery, which means the transformation will begin. Hello, Gemini. Welcome back, and welcome to a new life purpose about relationships. That's right. Sagittarius is your consciousness you use for your relationships in life. Your relationship to yourself, relationship to others, your relationship to inanimate objects, your relationship to the future, long-term partnerships, even marriage, of course. And what's interesting is, Geminis are kind of a walking relationship to begin with. You have two twins inside of you talking to each other all the time. So you are a relationship. So it makes sense that Sagittarius is your house of relationships. But we argue that you'll likely make some big changes to your policies or philosophies or the way you approach relationships, either making a change or actually allowing yourself to be honest with yourself about what it is you really believe. I think Geminis don't like to create conflict, and a lot of times they would rather go along with something than tell someone that they disagree, but that's not going to work anymore. This week, I think you'll make some decisions on Tuesday to make some big relationship changes, which will begin on Wednesday. And then you'll face the repercussions of that on Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for you is with some particular relationship. Now, what's interesting is on Wednesday, when you go forward with that change, you might have a grandmaster test of spiritual, moral, or even psychic ability when it comes to your career. That's where you've always had issues with karma, making the wrong decision, making the karmic decision that puts you on the wrong train or in the wrong position or in the wrong relationship. So you'll be tested at work with all of your decisions while Neptune's at 29 degrees Pisces, a test of faith. And remember, 29 means you have to respond to your feelings, not your thoughts, to find your truth in this particular instance. At the same time, you'll be letting go of some major issues of home and family, maybe letting go of some insecurities, or perhaps you'll notice that by taking your path that you need to be on spiritually with your career, your insecurities go away. The North Node at step 13 does call for you to follow what your heart believes when it comes to your career, not what your family tells you to believe, which is the fourth house, the South Node in Virgo. And I think this might be the first time we see Geminis do that. Now, when that happens, Gemini, you're going to find that there might be a radical change, therefore, with Venus taking the divine feminine role in Sagittarius, where you'll find that you might rewrite and open up to certain philosophies in your relationships or marriage that you never thought you'd be open up to. And the reason may be is because of the direction you want to go in your career, because you want to be innovative in that direction and perhaps take yourself to the next career level out of the karma. It means that your partnerships are either with you or they're not with you. And so it might be a career move that pushes the relationship change. No matter what happens, though, remember this, that you, my friend, are about to go through a profound change when Jupiter goes into Leo next year. Everything right now is preparing for a huge change next year where you'll come into your greatest mindset. So think along those terms. What will set you up for that success intellectually? It might be the right partnership and the right support. Welcome back, Cancers. Well, this week, Cancers may be making a major plot change when it comes to your daily lifestyle and changing your philosophy as to what brings purpose in daily life. Sagittarius, for the Cancers, is the way you approach day-to-day life. You're philosophical in the moment. Philosophical at work, you bring in all sorts of beliefs and causalities and reasons for what you do. You're very educated in daily life matters, frankly, and how to care for things moment to moment. But everything you have adopted so far with your belief structure might have been based on survival, not necessarily thrival. And so Cancers may be changing their daily purpose because they're now realizing they have a different role in society altogether. That's due to Uranus dipping back into Taurus. You're redefining what your role is. So if your role might be something greater, like to be an influencer or to be a great teacher, well, then maybe it's not important that you do these duties every day in your lifestyle. Maybe your lifestyle needs to be of a different type of philosophy or support. Literally, it could be, I hate to be cliche, Cancers getting out of the house and getting into university and getting into a different job where they're appreciated for their intellect, not just their nurturing skills. But when Neptune goes direct in Pisces, this will be a biggie because this is about life purpose in general. When it comes to purpose, Cancers have been derailed in past lives. They've allowed relationships to get in the way, or they've been, because of their caretakers, walked on and ignored. And so you must pursue your personal purpose. You must be on the path that you feel called to by God's spirituality and your goals. And so with Neptune at 29, you may announce to the world, hey, you're going to make changes. You may find that the world fights you and tries to pull you back into the old you. It's going to have to be very strong resilience for you to respond to your feelings and resist the temptation to respond and nurture theirs. You'll have to literally put your oxygen mask on first, Cancer, to get through this particular test. Now, once we move forward and we get to Thursday, we're trying to hold space for this change of life, this change of philosophy. This is where Venus is going to square the nodes. And this means that you're probably going to have to open up to something in daily life that you never thought you'd have to open up to. You may have to work with someone or work in a situation that you said you would never do. Well, never say never, because if you want to move forward with what your purpose really is and be the radical potential change that you can be, you're going to have to change some of your lifestyle habits and do something you've never thought you'd have to do. But if your heart feels okay about it and it doesn't throw you off balance, the universe is saying, open up, Cancers. There's a bright new future for you, both in work and also what you bring to the world. And welcome back to the joy. What? Well, I'm talking about Sagittarius, baby. Philosophy, adventure, travel. This is what a Leo loves. Sagittarius is the house of love for Leo. Sagittarius is the sign that rules what you do. It's all by philosophy that you have these reasons and beliefs for what you do. But have you had a lot of fun in your life? Have you shined the way you want to shine? Have you had a joygasm lately? Probably the answer is no, because somewhere along the line, Leos lost their way as far as following what they believe brings joy versus what the world says brings joy. Well, you're supposed to be the leader of joy. You're supposed to bring us creativity and a royal nature of our heart. And so I think it's time for the royalty of the Zodiac to move forward now and follow strictly what your heart believes. That means that you may be the unpopular king or queen for a while, and you'll need to be and hold your ground. Now, as the sun's in Sagittarius, of course, the earth is in Gemini. So as you craft in your heart what you really want, your position in the world changes. Your image in the world changes. Your reputation will change. And what they say about you is going to change. So be prepared for all that change. Now, the North Node in Pisces and then that Neptune going direct on Wednesday means that you're going to be tested on your boundaries like you've never been tested before. This is the final test of can you keep your ship together as you transform your life towards what's morally good for you, spiritually good for you, and also the most compassionate path for you. That's how the universe says you ought to be changing and making boundaries. The most compassionate path, or the most compassionate line is where you must draw the line. But nonetheless, it's been a hard few years since Neptune went into Pisces in 2012. And so you might be tested on anything you learned or you thought you learned in that period. This is also the house of sex, death, and taxes. So by all means, pay your taxes right now. That could be a test as well. Lastly, as we move forward, Venus replacing the divine masculine energy of that full moon, we now have Venus opening us up to something in Sagittarius that we may never have thought we would do. In other words, you may find, Leo, that you fall in love with someone or something that you swore you never would. In fact, a lot of times it's with the one you say you will never. They have the movies where they say, oh, they're enemies in the beginning of the film and then they fall in love. That may be the case. With Venus now in that place, it's saying, hey, you're going to have to get used to some uncomfortable boundaries for a couple of minutes if you're going to want to allow your heart to have what it actually wants. And I will say these transits show that this is time for you to have the plot thicken and you get what your heart wants. This is the moment for you to go strictly for what your heart wants. Don't hold it in. Go straight for it. Do not pass go and do not collect $200. And we come back next week. If all things are on the right path, it's going to get very passionate. So get some sleep this weekend. Welcome back, and welcome back to a new life purpose defined by your childhood. That's right. Well, Virgos very much craft their entire life based on their childhood. I think it's because, for one, you're so observant, right? Probably the most observant of all 12 signs. So it's not surprising that you get all your philosophy, all of your religion, all of your beliefs from your family, literally. Very classic way of getting it. But that is the problem right there. You are now ready to move on to new and greater things, particularly in your career. You're ready to come into your power. You're ready to find your place in society with Jupiter in Cancer. And as a result, you're going to have to come from a good home. Coming from a good home for you means coming from a good philosophy. It means you deciding what you believe about feelings, what they need and don't need. You decide what the revolution is going to be in your home. You make the policy. You write the Bible for the home. It also means that you take control of your feelings and direct them in a positive light versus allowing them to go off into negative directions, which is the mopey side of Sagittarius. Now, the interesting thing is, as you launch a new home family foundation philosophy, you're going to be tested with Neptune direct on relationships. That's right. Relationships, which are kind of the result of our childhood, is where you will be tested. Whatever you have learned since 2012 about marriage, partnership, fairness, karma, forgiveness, compassion, you name it, could be under some sort of test. And because Virgos think of everything, they usually get tested with a surprise, something they didn't think of. So kind of expect the unexpected during this particular time. The North Node in Pisces also says, hey, the relationship for you is not going to go by anybody's rules but yours. It has to be what your heart believes. And the thing about Virgos is they like what they like. They have the details that they hone in on. And so if you believe that you're in love because you both have the same type of taste for salad, then that's what it is. You have to go with it and not make any apologies for it. What this means also is that you'll have to let go of certain behaviors with the South Node of Sep 13, saying, hey, I'm releasing now this old way of being, this old way of becoming, because I no longer have to make up for career stuff. But good, you should know at the end of the day, the universe has got your side. In fact, Aquarius for you is actually your daily life. You're about to actually ascend in the age of Aquarius. You and the Aries are about to move forward and make it happen, to actually make it a reality of your everyday. So for that to happen, yes, you've got to draw the lines with where your feelings are. You've got to have it your way, and you've got to do relationships your way as well. We'll just sit back and look at you and wonder how you did it. Welcome back, Libras, and welcome to a philosophical change in the mind. That's where you use your philosophy and beliefs. It's in your mind. It's all in your mind. You have a philosophy for why you say this and an idea for why you think that, and you educated on how you ought to think, how you ought to rationalize things. I mean, you are the judge and jury of the Zodiac. It makes total sense that you have all these philosophies about how you find that fair path, that middle way. But whatever it is, it was based on not loving yourself. That's right. The philosophies you grew up with, just like all of us, did not include the idea of self-love. And for you, that's incredibly important because you have been very self-giving, right? You've given more than you've taken, I think, and you actually are the sign of I receive. So I propose a radical shift in Libra policy. I think we're all going to be a little shocked in what Libras come out with in the next few days, actually. And I don't think it's actually going to be anything new. I think you're actually going to be honest about what you really believe and start to open your mouth according to what you really think. And that's going to be probably what the shocker is. So for once, instead of being the one that creates peace, you're probably the one that creates some disruption, and disruption that we needed, by the way. Don't worry, it's not going to mess up with your legacy. Chiron is up in the higher degrees of your life purpose. So your purpose is sort of protected by Chiron. It really can't go wrong. I would say go with what your heart tells you to say. But once Neptune goes to 29 degrees Pisces, however, it's important for you to know that you will be tested, my friend. You will be tested energetically to the very nth degree as to whether or not you can hold together in the moment, literally, because you walk spirituality. Pisces rules your 6th house. So your lifestyle could be a bleeding edge where it just feels like it's coming apart at the seams, but it's not. What you must do is respond to your feelings and keep yourself in compassion and keep yourself in faith. If you can maintain that, I think you'll find that your entire lifestyle will go up to a higher degree. And if you get fired from a job right now, or you lose your access to a piece of property, let's say through a lease, trust me, the universe is forcing the upgrade for it to happen. You probably weren't going to do it on your own and you had to be pushed out. So ask yourself, does your heart believe you'd be in a better place if that happens? With the South Node in Virgo, it means that you're going to let go of silly fears. You're no longer going to think you were picked on or life's unfair, because you will now be fair and compassionate to yourself in the moment. So I think we see a radical new Libra coming around the corner that is very strong, independent, like you've always been, but of a different philosophy. You might have thought things for some period of your life, but now you're going to tell people, I now think differently. And I think what that's going to bring you is tremendous peace and also intellectual genius. One thing we should mention, of course, and this with that Gemini energy and Cancer energy as well, you are now ready to go into your career and succeed. So it's important that you get your philosophy down, because you're going to be called on stage here next year, any minute. Hello and welcome back, Scorpio. Sagittarius for you is your philosophy of values. You like to philosophize when it comes to values. You've got a long explanation for why this is valuable and that's valuable. And all these theories and beliefs that you came to were really about your childhood and surviving them, especially if you were growing up in the 80s, because Pluto was in Scorpio. And so the Sag energy was pretty harsh after Scorpio, and you did some radical changes in what you believed, or you might have thought at the time you were finding your truth. But there is no truth. There's only belief. And belief is only based on what you want to create. And so I think this time you have the privilege and the right to go ahead and write into your script that you are abundant and wealthy. In the old script, Scorpios had to sacrifice. Scorpios always took the hard road. Scorpios always bit the bullet, all these types of things. And so as a result, abundance did not come your way. But you can change that story. You can change it this week simply by deciding what you believe in when it comes to your value. This may play out when in a contract negotiation, maybe play out at, just in a simulation that you do. It may play out in just you researching the potential of your career and where you can go. But it's going to leave you with a commitment of what you're actually worth moment to moment, or let's say in an hourly range. Now, what this does is it inevitably changes certain boundaries. The Earth in Gemini says, hey, if you're going to be asking for this much in the world, you've got to, hold this much in the bank or give this much time in advance. All the timing and spacing of things have got to change. Your billing cycles, basically, if you're going to change your philosophy around what you cost and why you cost that. Now, when the North Node goes to when Neptune goes to 29 degrees Pisces, while you're trying to negotiate, fair labor and money, you're going to be tested on the hardest lesson you've ever had, which is love. Love is a tough one for Scorpios. It's bitter, bitter good, Bitter and sweet at the same time is what I'm trying to say. Because in some ways, when Scorpios are in love and love something, it's so intense. I think it's an experience that most humans don't get to have. On the other hand, when Scorpios are hurt and shut out of love, it can be the most painful thing a human can experience. And so whatever you've learned since 2012 about love, creativity, your inner child, play, or your ability to manifest your personal dreams may be tested now that Neptune's direct. Just be sure to keep it emotional, keep it compassionate, and not let it go into any of the old anger situations. As a result, by following your heart and what your heart really wants, you're going to let go of certain titles and certain places in society and no longer care that you associate with certain groups. That's okay. You could say that Scorpios are officially pulling out, right, of certain instances. And I think in some of those cases, pulling out because the universe is saying, hey, stop protecting them, Scorpios, stop protecting those people and protect yourself. Either way, I think next week you are either on to happiness and wealth or you're not. Hello, Sagittarius, welcome back and happy birthday to you. I'm excited. I got a birthday invitation from my favorite Sagittarius actually last week. I can't wait to go to his party. And he's actually one of the founders of Serious Joy, believe it or not. So he hasn't held a party for a long time on his birthday. That tells me right there, y'all are changing. Sagittarius are about to change some big ways. One, I feel it has to do with, frankly, your behavior. The way you believe you should act is changing. I'm not seeing Sagittarius as the last one to the party anymore. I'm seeing Sagittarius as having families, going back to home, not necessarily traveling, not always on that, standby kind of lifestyle, waiting for the next jet plane. In fact, you are now, I think, moving into the role of being a teacher, frankly, what your real talent set is. Because if you haven't noticed, the world is incredibly ignorant, and we're about to upgrade to 5D, which means everyone's going to need personal tutoring lessons. So for Sagittarius, your philosophy equates to your behavior. We're going to see a major behavior change. It may be that you stop doing something or you start doing something, or a combination of all in between, or you may not even know what it means with behavior until you actually start to put this philosophy into play. But we're all going to see Sagittarius stop and suddenly act differently over the course of this week. Now, in the background, that means that there's going to be some major changes in relationships. You might be doing some renegotiation of those contract points that you have in your marriage and also your marriage. And you may find that new honest information comes out in the marriage that changes a lot of things because you're being frank and honest. But the Pisces issue with Neptune going direct is a bitter test because it is a test of whether or not you can stay emotionally grounded through all the change. Step 29 Pisces for you is your emotional foundation. Will you survive or not survive? Literally. And of course you will. But what you may find is that you may be able to do something that is above and beyond in your ability to cope with just your own feelings and sensitivity. You might have a major discovery about what's possible and go into a whole new area. That said, if I were you, I'd be compassionate to yourself in all areas. Just by nature, build into that philosophy to be nice to you all the time. And when you find that we have Venus in your sign, Sagittarius, and Divine Feminine helping by Thursday, it means that you're probably going to make a change in your behavior that's going to directly play into a change at home. It could be at home makes you change your behavior, behavior makes you change at home, but expect kind of an upgrade, if you will, in how grounded you are, in how you behave, and how fresh you feel. Let's put it this way. The home you were born to was just not enough as far as the spirituality compassion that you need. You need to double it. So if you're not moving up to a higher, more sacred ground, I don't think you can support this new Sagittarius 2.0. Hello, Capricorns, welcome back and welcome to a new spiritual purpose for you. Sagittarius, your belief structure actually comes from your past lives. Interesting. You're the only sign that draws your beliefs from a past life. Maybe that's why you're so conservative by nature. But even now, it's time for some change. Your philosophies about God, spirit, afterlife, guilt, to feel guilty or not guilty, all these things now need to be upgraded. There's going to be a plot twist, a change, if you will. And it could be actually triggered by that full moon last week in Gemini, which energetically had to do with your daily work life. Maybe something happened at work, a hiccup in the giddy up that forced you to start thinking radically differently. So it's important that you follow what your heart believes, not what you're told, not what looks good, not what gets the best marks or gives you the best credit or the credit rating. Now, when Neptune goes to 29 degrees Pisces, this is going to be a test of your mind. That's right. You must maintain a compassionate, non-judgmental mind the entire time of this test, because it's actually your mind where your karma plays out. You start thinking about worst case scenarios. You start thinking about feeling guilty for something or not going far enough for something. And that guilt or whatever is ultimately what will bring you down. You have to be very careful about that. Energetically, it's time to move forward also at the same time with letting go of antiquated beliefs, religion, organized things, maybe even things in education that just don't really meet the modern day. That's the South Node in Virgo that I'm talking about. The North Node of Pisces says you must be mindful again of what your heart believes. Being mindful of what your heart believes will make sure that your mind is always on the correct track. Now, as we move forward through the week, we're going to have that test of Venus coming into Sagittarius, which means you might have a surprise happen, possibly a miracle. Maybe you'll open up to communication. Maybe you'll receive something from your guides, something significant enough to make a radical change, one that may change your thinking forever. Literally, this is a time where Capricorns may see a ghost or may communicate with the dead or something that convinces you of afterlife or seeing afterlife in a whole new way. It's important that this goes ahead and happens, by the way, because you are now ready for a change of life, period. Once Jupiter leaves Cancer and goes into Leo next year, you're going to be brought into your highest and greatest self. It means that you must be a master of your feelings, and that means that your mind must be compassionate, and that means that you must hold the faith. Listen to what your heart believes, Capricorn. This is what's most important. If you do that, you're going to find that you have a life that you really love and energetically that you want to show up for every day. Until next week, when we hit mastery, keep up the good work with being kind. Hello, Aquarius, and welcome back. And welcome to a new approach energetically to a new life philosophically. What am I talking about? Well, first of all, Pluto and Aquarius, you got to know we're at step 2 now. So the Aquas are facing, first and foremost, I got to say, out of all the horoscopes, you must know that it's now time to protect your feelings because this all comes down to how well you can manage your feelings, all right? Managing your feelings and keeping them nice and cool will allow you to see your truth because belief is what your heart feels is true. Heart feels. And Aquarius have typically kind of gone a little cold and detached in order to remain disconnected from drama and situations. But that can't happen anymore. Jupiter's been in Cancer now, helping you expand your emotional abilities to stay present and sensitive in the moment, because only that will bring you to really your place in the world. You are basically a philosopher for the world. You bring your beliefs to the world. That's what you tell us all the time is what you believe. And here's the thing. Now that you are feeling a little of that taste of Pluto, you probably believe some new things. You probably have some radical departures from the old things. And so it's going to be time this week to make a decision about what you believe or what you don't believe, and maybe even come out in the public and say it. What ends up happening is by you living according to what you actually believe in society, who you are, and what you believe and stand by, you start the revolution. Yes, you are the radical one. And the Earth in the Earth in Gemini says you also start a love story with yourself. This is the point where you fall in love with yourself and your life, and everything in your life is when you can speak your truth of what you actually believe out there in the world. Now, Neptune going to step 29 Pisces means that you may find that you are tested with your ability to make abundance. In other words, whatever it comes down to with money or having supplies or having some sort of a supply chain, if you're a manufacturer, whatever you do day to day, your finances might be tested. You might have to have a leap of faith that everything will be okay. One final leap of faith. And I know it's been nothing but leaps of faith since 2012. That, my friend, is going to be the final test of where your moralities can come through. And if you're going to have a leap of faith, and when it comes to money, it means you've got to let go of a lot of things like control, and you have to surrender and maybe hold on to certain boundaries, let go of certain boundaries you've had around money or spending because they frankly don't serve you or they work against your faith. Either are possible. But I will say this, when Jupiter goes direct in Cancer and you are finally feeling good in your skin and you have no karma with Pisces in the second house, you're going to be really prime for being the key messenger of the world, because Saturn, Neptune, and Aries means it's time for you to go out and say your message, to craft your message and start crafting it for the new world. So get used to having some money around, because I think those days of having faith are over as far as the necessity of them. Hello, Pisces. Welcome back. Well, you are one of the most affected by this particular transit we're having right now with Sagittarius due to the square nature of the energy. The sun in Sagittarius ultimately is the way you look at your entire future. You are a philosopher, and sometimes only a philosopher, right? You've certainly been blamed for that. Your belief structure all comes down to how and why you make decisions and where. And you are meant to have a career that is like an adventure, but the adventure is changing. Saturn and Neptune have wrapped through your sign. That's the biggest investment you'll get in this lifetime for you to grow to a higher version of yourself. The North Node's at 13 says, hey, it's time to innovate your behavior. Only do what your heart believes in and nothing more. That's going to be a big one. And move away from the relationships that hold you back. That's going to be even bigger, big one. But what it comes down to with Sag is that you're going to make some choices about a philosophy, And once you choose, you've got to stick with the plan, because if you don't, it's going to create emotional chaos. In fact, it's likely that your philosophy is directly related to overcoming certain insecurities you have, anxiety that you have, or maybe even the way you were raised as a child, the way you were talked down to or talked up to, whatever it may not be really accurate as of today. So by choosing the philosophy, step 3, the mind and thoughts, Gemini, will be clear. That means you'll know how to think about your feelings once you make the right decision according to what you believe. As long as you come in with that philosophy, things will be fine. Now, where's the big test? Neptune, step 29, Pisces. That means you're going to be tested on character. You might go through a character assault. Maybe someone will try to bring you down or talk you out of something that you think you are qualified for. Or maybe you'll go for some sort of popular vote and you won't win the popular vote and have to hold the faith. Whatever it is, it's a final test. You've been under hellfire since 2012, and I'm happy to say it's almost over. Just stick with your guns and move forward. And realize this, that again, for you to live in this new behavior, it may mean that you have to pull out of some relationships or change the way you relate altogether. You're letting go of things that you've been holding on to kind of as an emotional life raft, to be honest, frankly. Now, with Jupiter in Cancer, it's also important for you to know that it's time for your dreams to come true. If your heart's not fully engaged, you're on the wrong path. You're meant to be a happy Pisces now, smiling like a Buddha. And energetically, if you're not doing that, then you're not going the right way. Next year, when the Jupiter goes into Leo, you're going to see all these dreams start to come a reality. So get used to it. Behave differently. Follow what you believe, because you are here to bring spiritual peace and compassion to a time that's about to go a bit haywire. Basically, you're being called to stage now. It's time for you to come up and wrap up the age of Pisces. Are you up for it? That's all we have for this week. It's going to be a galactic cosmic week of purpose. It's going to be interesting, and I'm so glad to be here for you at this time. Now, if you want deeper discussion and coaching on your potential here on Earth, there's 2 different directions you can go right now. If you're in it for the long haul, join SIRIUSjoy.com, where every day you'll get a pep talk, messages crafted just for you, and a plethora of teaching to help you step into the light and find your life's purpose. But maybe you just need a little bit of a tune-up energetically. And if that's the case, may I suggest Mastering Self-Love at masteringself.love at our academy. It is going to be launching this Sunday, and we will walk with you day after day, giving you little assignments that will help you master your path of self-love. Either way, Serious Joy is committed to you. This is going on to our 20th year now, and we're grateful that you're with us, and we're grateful to be with you. We thank you very much. Remember, if you'd like to know anything more, come on down to SIRIUSjoy.com. We've got all the info down there. Until next week, I love you. Live, love, be.